Greetings, Patrick here from Eight Questions With, and welcome to a special Friday edition of Eight Questions. As we are welcoming you back, our friend and second time visiting us, Corin Nemec will be here with us in about 15 minutes. Corin's got a brand new Western film that we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about a lot of Westerns today. The movie's called Place of Bones, and it has a strong cast. Led by Corin himself, along with Heather Graham, Tom Hopper, Cowboy Cerrone, Donald Cowboy Cerrone, the UFC fighter. I've seen him act before. He can hold his own. He can hold his own for sure. And it's good, and it's directed by Ashley Cummings, Audrey Cummings, I think. Audrey. I want to make sure I get it right. Audrey Cummings. I'm very interested in this. This is going to be a lot of fun to talk to Corin about this movie because this one has looking at the trailer and it looks a lot like a Western, like a straightforward Western. But I have a feeling there's some other things going on in this movie that we don't necessarily see in a straight up Western. Now, we're gonna see what we can get from Corin. The movie opens up next week on the August 23rd. Opens up at the theaters and on demand. So you could definitely check it out, and I highly recommend you do. I love Western films myself. My channel is based on a Western. Have Cheetah Will View is just a takeoff of Have Gun Will Travel. The cheetah's name is Paladin, so I'm a big Western guy myself. I love them. And I'm So we're going to be talking about Western films today. Hi, Anthony. How are you? Doing good. Glad you're here. Uh, so we're going to be talking about Place of Bones. We're also going to be talking about catching up with the Core and some other films that he has done. He has stayed busy. He has stayed busy. It isn't just he's not just doing the westerns. He's also got some other movies that he's released since the last time he was here, and that includes Couples Retreat Murder, uh, Day Labor, I Feel Fine, Deadly Justice. I mean, there's a ton of movies that he's done since we last talked to Corin. So we're going to go ahead, and he's got a bunch coming up. So we're going to be talking to him about those movies as well. And yeah, so if you have questions for Corin, we will go ahead and talk for a little while, get the chat going, and then if you guys have some questions, yeah, I was rewatching our first interview, and it's a trip. That's an absolute trip. There's gonna be some questions we're gonna ask in regards to that first interview. Um, we mentioned two prominent names, and both of those names have come back recently in the public eye, and we're gonna talk to Corn about that as well. Uh, Oh, yes. Corn is a great guest. I really enjoy talking to him. He's so down to earth, and he's a good soul, and and he really appreciates what we do. You know, small interviewers like this. He appreciates it, and he's not afraid to come down and a lot of these guys like Corn, they're not used to talking to small podcasts like this. They're used to doing conventions or they're doing panels or whatever. They're not really used to, you don't really hear a lot of actors of his stature doing interviews like this. Um, so I'm really grateful for it. I truly am. I think it's amazing. And he's not the only one. And this is the first of two shows back to back Fridays. Today being the 16th, we're talking to Corin Nemec. And then we're going back to the Western next Friday on the 23rd, which is when Place of Bones comes out. But we'll be talking to the cast of Taken from Rio Bravo, Alexander Neskai and Joe Cornette, Tatiana Neva. They're going to come back and talk about their movie, another Western being made. I'm all in for it. Count me in. The more Westerns there are, I think it's great. I think it's great. Um, And so we're going to be talking about we're going to be talking with Joe and Alexander. They too have also been on the show. Alexander has come on with Joe, and then we interviewed Joe himself, and then we had a watch party for Gunfight at Rio Bravo with Joe and Kerry Goodwin and film composer Sean Murray. So we are up to our elbows in cowboys here. Uh, we love cowboys. We like the westerns. We're all in for it. Um, I even have a playlist of western reviews and that you guys can check out as well. And I plan on doing more reviews of westerns going forward on the channel. I sort of like I need to go back and get back into it because like I said I'm all about westerns. And But between now, this Friday, and next Friday, we do have some shows coming up. Tomorrow at 3 p.m., we have Chris Horner, who runs and operates all Win Games, and he'll be here with us at 3 p.m. And he'll be talking about his new game that he's going to be taking to market soon. He's doing beta testing for it right now, trying to raise a few more dollars to help push it over the top. We'll talk to him about what it takes to create a game. Um, let's see. And then next Tuesday, the 20th, we have actress and producer Elaine Huntington will be here with us at 8 o'clock. Elaine is one of my favorite people. I'm so glad she's going to come onto the show. We're going to talk all things fun, horror, Louisiana films. We're going to talk a little Shark Exorcist. We're going to talk a little about Kickboxer. She helped produce Kickboxer Vengeance. And we're going to be talking about a bunch of fun things that Elaine has been involved in. And she is one of the bigger mover and shakers in New Orleans as far as independent film goes. So we'll be talking to her on the 20th. And then on the 21st, our good friend Marshall will be back. Marshall Schartzer the third, also known as Mellow Nomadic Adventures. His YouTube channel is Mellow Nomadic Adventures, and he will be back. And he's got himself a brand new rig for as he is known as a van lifer. He's got a brand new rig, and we're going to go talk about that and what it takes to trick out a van so a person can live in it. Um, and that doesn't really seem too far fetched these days, as far as that goes. A lot of people are before they were going into the vans by choice. I want to do a van. I'm going to do a van conversion and live out of there. Go around and visit the country, but I'm going to come home. But it seems to be a little bit more and more that that's starting to become a necessity. So we'll talk to Marshall about what the van life community is going through right now, what the atmosphere is about. He's a fantastic person to talk to about this. Plus, he also works on different films and stuff like that. He works as film crew, and we'll talk about the status of filming in Kentucky and Tennessee. All right, the doorbell has rang, so I don't ever like keeping anybody waiting. So we're gonna get Corin going right here, right now. We'll talk a little bit lightly before till 8 o'clock. Then we'll get this party started in earnest.
Let's see here. Does this work?
Yes.
I have
yes.
to keep it upright.
There you
How's it
go.
going, sir?
Good. How's it going with you? Good. Sorry for the confusion. Sorry for the confusion.
No, it's fine. I just didn't read the details, man. Just don't even sweat it, buddy.
You know what? I think I know what happened. Last time we talked, I did tell you about how corgis are mischievous. It could have been Theodore, causing a little ruckus there.
That wouldn't surprise me one bit. It would not surprise me a bit.
Not one bit. I'm excited to talk to you tonight about westerns because I mean, can you think of a better place to talk about a western than with a guy whose channel is called Have Cheeto Will View? I mean, you do know what my channel is, right? You know what it's named after, right?
Yeah. I mean, we talked about it last time.
Yeah. So I mean,
Yeah, it's
this
great.
is absolutely perfect. I can't think of a better place for you to be than right here, right now, with us talking about Place of Bones. Um, the trailer look,
Fantastic.
the trailer looks insane. It looks really
Yeah,
good.
it's a it's a wonderful piece. Audrey Cummings, the director, had a great vision for it. Our cinematographer, who had done quite a bit of work with Quentin Tarantino in his early days, came through with just some incredible cinematography, just absolutely beautiful, and every frame is a photograph.
It really is. It looks like you did you shoot on location, or did you shoot in California, or did you go? I think it's did where did you shoot the film? I mean, I know there's Santa
Yeah,
Clarita.
it certainly wasn't a spaghetti western. We weren't over in Spain or Italy. We were up in not Northern California. We're up north of LA in California,
Okay.
out in the desert area. The actual area is Verde Canyon, but it's outside of Santa Clarita, Valencia area.
You know, if that place, you know what, if they ever, it's too bad there's not a historian that could write about that area, because there have been so many great projects done out of that area, including a ton of
Yeah,
West.
so there's a bunch of film ranches out there. Disney has a film ranch out there. Warner Brothers has a film ranch out there. There's a number of independent ones. This one was an independent one, uh, and it was great. We had a wonderful time shooting there. It was a beautiful location that our production designer did a stellar job creating the environment, and on very short notice, I can tell you that, and at a very tight budget. So he did a phenomenal job.
I just, you know what, and you know what, and Audrey looks like she looks like she knows her way around a Western set. That movie looks banging. I mean, it looks like it's an old fashioned shoot 'em up. You know, she did not pull back on the violence. I mean, and I think you need that in a solid Western. I think you need that gunplay and tough guys to make it move it forward.
Yeah, the desolation, the scarcity of provisions, all of those kind of environmental, conditions, and I guess you could almost even call them like a sociological condition too, because there's a lack of people there, so they're very far away from the nearest town. They don't have proper transportation to get to and from there. Even if they were to, they're in the kind of the uncharted waters of the Western territories. So that increases the heightens the danger, so to speak. So the stage is set already for Heather Graham and Brielle Robillard to, as the mother and daughter, to already be in a precarious situation. So when they find my character laying in the shrubbery, having crawled away from a distant gunfight overnight, they taking me in is a very dangerous thing to do, because they find in my saddlebag a load of currency from a recent bank robbery. So, the predicament is, if I'm kept around, someone's going to come looking for that money. And
Well,
who did I
I'm
have
sort
to
of bummed
kill?
out.
Who did I have to kill to get the money? You know?
I'm sort of bummed out because Calhoun seems to be a really nice guy. He just wanted his part. He just wanted to cut the part of his cut. I mean, why is the other guy stressing so much? I mean, just because you took like 95% of the loot. I mean, what's a few dollars
Yeah.
between friends, right?
Yeah, totally, man. Totally.
Some people
My
are
my
commenting
my
on
hair's
the
going wild here, bro. We're having a whole situation with my hair. It's freshly washed. It's all over the place.
you look rugged. You look
Woo!
like right now. Yeah, it looks like
Come on, let's
the
go
only
on.
thing you're missing now is
There
a
we go.
cowboy hat and a six shooter and a horse.
Yeah, with
Some
my
people
with
have
my
come
white
in.
with my whitey Veda, with my South American whitey Veda.
Oh my gosh, that is a smooth looking shirt. Quite honestly,
It's
uh,
vintage, my friend. It's vintage.
very nice. Some friends have come in through the chat, and our friend Steve from Arizona is here. Hi, Steve. Ant Review, thanks from the Friendly Men podcast is here. Welcome in.
Wonderful. Welcome, everyone. You're all
Mac,
welcome here.
yes, yes. Mac is here. Hi, Mac. How are you? He loves Drop Zone and The Stand. Yeah,
Wow. Nice. Drop Zone. That's a classic. I had such a fun time making that.
I had actually because now that you worked with Heather on this movie, I was like, wow, that's because I remember that she did the Stand remake, and I'm going like, that's right, she
Oh,
was.
I hadn't seen the Stand remake, so I didn't realize that she was in it. But that's a cool
I
coincidence.
don't, I was going to ask you this. I was going to ask you this if you've seen it or not, but I'll still tell you who's in it. So Heather was in it. She played Rita Blakemore, and
Okay.
so she played Rita in the role. Now, last time you and I talked, we talked about how you played Harold, and Laura San
Yeah.
Giacomo who played Nadine. Do you know who they
Yeah.
got to play Nadine in the remake?
No idea.
Amber Heard.
Really?
Yeah,
That's
that's
strange casting. Maybe it was after the court scene, the court scene performance. They were like, she's
yeah.
perfect.
I think it was before. I think it was before the whole court thing that happened.
Uh,
But
oh, I was saying, well, I was thinking it might have been after.
no, I would have been. And it would have really been really weird if that had been Heather playing
I don't know.
Nadine.
It's yeah, I don't know. Casting is an animal in and of itself, especially when you have a project like that with that many characters, that many options, so many people throwing names at you and everything. I mean, the fact that I was cast as Harold Lauder in the first one was like struck by lightning kind of luck, you know. I only got in the room because of Mick Garris because I'd auditioned for Sleepwalker, a couple of years before, and he really liked my performance. And that's the only reason why I got in there. Because I don't match the physical build of the character at all. If I
Yeah,
hadn't read for Mick Garris a few years before, he never would have told Steven that he thought of somebody that he thinks, he knows somebody that he thinks could play the character, even though I don't look like it.
yeah. I had no idea because I was thinking about that too. We talked about it the first time. Like I saw you perfectly as Harold. I mean, honestly, but I just didn't myself. I didn't see Laura San Giacomo as Nadine. Amber Heard. That was a stroke of genius. As exactly. I'm
Wow,
like,
really? I haven't watched it. I want to watch it now.
yeah,
You're making me want to watch it.
yeah.
It's great.
I mean, you already know this. We talked about that, but I love the first. I thought the original miniseries was top notch. It really was. It was really well done. And in a sense, The Stand is nothing more than a western, right?
Yeah, in a sense, yeah, you could say that. Sure.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I mean,
I
sure.
mean,
Hey,
they certainly got reverted back to the Wild West days in terms of the technology and electricity and the ease of things and driving around and gas and all of those luxuries that went by. It took some time to start bringing those luxuries back, as we know, anybody who
right.
read the
And,
book or
and
watched the miniseries.
and then
But
it just reverted back to how people were living back then in the western times, and it sort of brought that sort of back. A lot of the same
yeah,
themes we saw in some of the classic westerns, like going out on a quest, going out to rescue, going out to stop a like the Magnificent Seven. The seven are trying to stop a warlord from taking over the whole area. And there
yeah,
you are,
totally.
they're in the, Stu and his crew are out there trying to stop Flag from taking over. I mean, there's a lot of themes in The
Well,
Stand.
listen, if I had gone off of that cliff on a donkey instead of a motorcycle, I probably would have survived.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. We should talk to Steven about that. Wonder what he would say to that. Hi, Mr. Dan. How are you? Glad you're here. Um, so let's talk a little bit about how you got involved in this. Is this your first Western, Corin? Had you ever
Well,
done a Western film?
it's my second one. I co-wrote a Western called Dead Man's Hand that was based on a Source Point Press graphic novel of the same title. It's a series of 3 books, but I got the opportunity to write the original draft of it. That Brian Skiba directed the film. He wrote the director's draft, so the version that you saw on screen. I didn't star in that. It was starring Stephen Dorff and Cole Hauser, with Jack Kilmer as the kind of lead anti-hero, and my character was relatively small, and my job mostly on that was as a writer. So what was wonderful about that is that I had done a lot of research in writing it, uh, to try and find out how people communicated back then. And in my research, I found that one, the majority of people who had the ability to read only had one book around, and that was the Bible. That there was a lot of biblical references that were used, a lot of analogies that were used from the Bible, a lot of things like that were commonplace. And also, I found out that humor was a big part of Western, especially Wild West life. You had to have a very thick skin because apparently in the saloons and bars, there was a lot of ham boning on people, a lot of making fun of people. So in order to get to the level of a shootout, there were so many lines that you had to cross, because people had such thick skin back then. It wasn't as you know, as wild in a sense. It was wild, but it wasn't as legendarily dangerous. You couldn't just get blown away for maybe necessarily an insult at the bar, because half the people might find it funny. In fact, the person you're making fun of might find it funny and start making fun of you back. Now, if that escalates, it could end up in a shootout. But anyway, in the research that I was doing, it just I ended up getting this job in place of Bones, and the character, it's I almost say it's like Misery meets Hateful Eight. It's kind of like that weird world of those two. It has a life of its own in terms of the pacing and how the story unfolds for the audience, and the tension, and and the manipulation going on. How it takes time for the certain truths to come out that set the tone for what's really happening that people are unaware of. There's some. It's really wonderfully written. Richard Taylor, the author of it, is an incredible researcher as well. He did a great job writing it, and and he allowed me in creating that character to bring some of that um roundness to the way that the character spoke. Not necessarily saying things so overtly, but asking him, if it's okay that maybe instead of saying that this character is a great tracker, I can say, well, this character, he might not be Indian, but he can find a mouse in a wheat field, which indicates that he's a really great tracker. So little things like that. He allowed me to massage some of the wording of it to sort of create more of an analogical type of way of speaking, where the guy's not really necessarily educated enough to be able to speak properly. So there's a lot of comparisons made to things,
Um,
instead of saying the literal thing itself.
I definitely let me catch up here. Our friend Steve mentions researching Place of Bones. Sounds like a great movie. The bloody bank robber arrives at a remote ranch, and Pandora and daughter Hester are going to take care of him. Yeah, you know what? Here's what I want to say about the language. I personally feel this is probably the hardest part about doing a western. I think this is the hardest part. Is the language. I mean,
Yep.
doing the horse riding, doing the gunfights, doing the physical fights. I think that not necessarily easy, but I think of in doing a western, I think it is the dialogue that's the hardest, because you got to make sure that you don't sound like you're in 1876. You don't want to sound like you're in 2024. Let's
And
speak.
a lot of more modern westerns have that exact problem. Which the majority of viewers probably won't necessarily be bothered by that, because they might not be thinking in terms of, oh, what did it sound like back then? How did people communicate? What was the lingo, the jargon, the cadence, you know what I mean? Uh, so, but I do think that when you approach something like that and you try to find that kind of heart in it, that kind of realistic, authentic heart in it, it transports you in a way where in your mind, because you only have a certain amount of senses to perceive something, and watching a two-dimensional frame, all you're seeing is the set, the characters in the frame, and the discussions about what's going on, or how they're feeling, and the activities that are occurring in the frame. And so it's actually, in a way, it's a limited opportunity to create a multi-dimensional experience for a viewer. And the more authentic that experience, I mean, we all worked with some dialect coaches as well. I wish I could remember her name. She was wonderful to work with. I should have wrote it down. um, and that's where when I've done other dialects, it's not so much that you can be general about a dialect. So you say, okay, well, we want in this film, we want sort of that mid Texas, kind of twang, old school Wild West sort of sound to it, because that had a different sound to it than, say, Mississippi or Louisiana, with that maybe more of that Cajun kind of a thing that was happening, or wherever else, or the Midwest, or so. But then you have to ask yourself, well, there's also a difference in how people talk depending on how they grew up. What was their economic, situation? What's their educational background? How well cultured are they? How well socialized are they? All of those things come into play in how somebody sounds, because somebody
Mhm.
from Boston, who sounds like he's from Boston, he might sound really proper from Boston. Or then you got the guy who's all like, whatever, you know what I mean? There's different layers, and there's going to be a different verbiage that's used by somebody who is well educated versus somebody who's uneducated,
Yeah,
and how those words jumble together, how they fall over each other, because there hasn't been a proper way of teaching someone to speak English properly, which is what's great, because in the beginning of the movie, that's part of the thing about Heather Graham's character raising her daughter there, that she wants her to grow up to be a proper lady. So she's teaching her how to speak properly, but she's got that Southern accent, but she's speaking it very properly. You know what I mean? So it's in comparison to my character, who comes in, who's just, was raised in tents out in the back of saloons by a mom who was a lady of the night and didn't know who his daddy was, and grew up as basically a street kid in the Wild West. That's that guy. It's not that he's a bad guy. He actually
no,
has a
I,
lot of respect for women and for things like that and everything, and he has a perspective on life, and he's seen what life can be like and how it can be lived if you have the money. You know what
right.
I mean? But he's never had the money, and so he's gotten roped in with some bad dudes. So I never took the character on as being a bad guy.
I
He
didn't get
feels
that impression either.
justified in his bad behavior, because that's the layer of survival that he's been plugged into for so long. He's choiceless, you
Yeah,
know.
you don't get the, just reading about it and watching the trailer, you really don't get the idea that Calhoun is a bad guy. He's not like, it's not like Clint Eastwood in The Beguiled either, where he's going to come in there and, be devious, in his words and deeds, like, portraying one person but doing the other. Um, he does seem like he's just, he got caught up in circumstances beyond his control. So what did you do to Calhoun? How did you prepare for the character? Because since you've had only had done that one small Western before, so this is your first Western character. So how did you build it? How did you make Calhoun come to life?
Yes, well, that's just it. Is doing the character research is the main thing. Is because there's a lot that's not written in the script. I mean, he's just written as a dirty bank robber. So I have to. So in working with the dialect coach, that's when I started doing my historical research on this character, which is for me is the most fun part about being an actor, because if it's not in the script, you get to create it. And it doesn't ever have to be spoken about, it doesn't ever have to be addressed, but it creates a dynamic for the character because there's something going on under the surface that nobody's aware of, not even the writer of the script. So the idea that that he grew up down there, his mom was sort of like a lady of the night that was working in one of those saloons down in the Wild West, got knocked up, had this kid, had to raise him basically at the saloon out in the back. He grew up like that. He grew up hanging around gunslingers and gamblers and lone wolves and whatever, and coming up as a teen, seeing that, oh, there's another life to live out there. He wasn't educated enough to figure out a way into that, you know, and therefore he decided to start hanging out with the cowboys, and
Right,
and uh, and then from there, the rest was history for him. It became a life of crime and a life out on the plains, holding up banks and stagecoaches and whatever else. And in the throes of that, if you're never caught and you're never killed, there's a certain justification that can be made as a character to say, okay, well, yeah, we robbed that train, but I only shot the guy who tried to shoot me. You
right.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or
What do they say? What
you
do
know
they
what
say?
I'm
The
saying? Like
villains.
when we robbed the bank, well, yeah, so and so did shoot the teller for no reason, but I didn't shoot the teller. So
Right.
it's not on me that the innocent teller got killed. So there's different ways where that even in the criminal world, they can write a fine line for themselves to still try and feel like they're not all that bad.
Right.
You know?
What do they say? The villains on the villain's never the bad guy in his own story.
Yeah,
He's never.
exactly.
Uh, so you built, it was your first, like I'm saying, this is your first time, your second, your first big role in a Western. So what are what are some of the things you had to learn? Did you have to learn how to ride a horse, or did you already have that skill? What was
No, my character. When you meet my character, I'm already injured and incapable of riding a horse. Unfortunately, I do like to ride horses. I've ridden them, never in a film, but I've ridden them in real life on occasion. And in fact, one time, me and some friends of mine had gone riding at this stable up in the Hollywood Hills way back in the day. But maybe might have been the early '90s or something, and one of I forget what they call it. They call it barn fever. One of the horses got barn fever or whatever, and we were like way up the trail, and it wanted to go back to the
oh,
barn no matter what.
oh,
And so it just took off, and then so all the other horses turned around and took off after that one. And there's nothing any of us could do except hold on for dear life until we got back down this mountain to the
oh,
stables. It was a really hot day, and those horses they weren't too happy about having to trek up a mountainside in that heat.
they just said, you know what, this is not in our contract. We're out of here.
Exactly.
Now, of course, the other part we're going to talk about too is how'd you like working with the guns?
Yeah, I've worked with plenty of guns over the years. That the one thing about Western Wild West guns, unless you're working with a replica, those hammers do not cock back easy like it looks in the movies. The real hammers of the authentic Western guns, I mean, you almost if you're not if you don't have a strong hand, a strong thumb, especially, you will likely, if it's your first time ever cocking one, need to use two hands at least just the first time. I mean, it's they're not easy, but they make some great replica ones now that look very authentic, and you can cock those things back like a toy gun, which really helps. Um, and then if you're trying to do, because I have played around with them in the past, I was you know never firing off blanks or anything like that, but I've gotten to be around a lot of the prop guns, and I've tried doing that thing where you whip the hammer back with your hand
Oh,
on one of those real the old old school
like this,
style
you
guns.
mean? Like this?
Yeah, let me tell you
Yeah.
something. That is not, you gotta have some serious like rodeo wrangling hands, really a layer of scabbage over those things 3 inches thick to do that,
Oh my,
because
yeah.
the second or third time you do it, it hurts. It hurts.
A lot of Western film purists, the Western purists, they comment on that about the fanning. They're going like, you see all the heroes coming out there and they're fanning their guns, as they're running. They're going like, did they understand how really hard that would actually be in real life, and that really didn't happen all that much for a man
Yeah.
to be able to do that? And here you are just explaining that. Yeah, and we see that we see the hammer the with the hammer, because I think I don't think you used replicas, did you? You used the real thing.
There was some replicas, and there was some that were, that were authentic. Obviously, they were, they were able to fire blanks, but they the hammers on two of the guns, the two authentic ones, those were tough. Heather had one of them, a
Yeah,
big old
you see, you could
a big
tell
old Bronco Buster, and
you could tell that was the real deal.
and she handled it well. But you know she handled it really well.
Yeah, you can see in the pictures and whatnot that she is handling the real deal, because she's has to put the energy into cocking cocking it back, and
Oh yeah,
and And the picture what I loved about the picture that I used for this show, you're standing there, you're facing the camera, and your face is there, but into the back, slightly to the left, you see Heather, and have her gun outside the window, and you see her use
yeah.
both hands. Um, so I was like, man, this is just, this is the real deal. You guys are, this isn't airsoft guns. You guys were using some authentic equipment, which always helps to make the movie work well. Um,
Yeah.
like coming, people coming out with a lot of problems, like a lot of problems with a lot of westerns is, um, you know, trying to get the authenticness into it. Um, Someone had commented, when Chuck Connors did The Rifleman, he was using a rifle that hadn't been invented until 10 years past the date. Yeah, I mean that gun didn't come into play until 10 years after the Rifleman, and he was 10
Yeah.
years early, and people notice
Yeah.
that, and they comment, and in the Wild Western fans, I'm sure you've already heard some feedback. Western fans are just like any other impassioned, fan genre, people. They they
Yeah.
love it, and they want to
Well,
see
I'll
it
tell you
work.
this. This is what I think is going to be very refreshing for them then, because similar to how the Hateful Eight gave a Western fan an opportunity to get to know Wild West characters. Instead of everything being so like short and quick and so much going on, so many different characters, so many backstories, so much stuff happening in order to tell the story, that you have limited time to get to know who it is you're dealing with. So in that respect, it lets the story is allowed to breathe enough to where a real true Western fan is going to feel like, okay, finally I get to like enjoy being in the Wild West for a little bit, before the proverbial hits the fan. And so I think that this is going to be in fact, my good friend Billy Miller, He's and one of the biggest Western movie fans I've ever met in my life, and he's a very successful defense lawyer down in Biloxi. So if anybody out there needs a defense lawyer, look up Billy Miller. But he when I was showed him the film, I got to show him a little screener of it. He was so relieved to finally, in his words, to finally see an authentic Western again, to say something that really
You,
just made him
you,
feel like he was there. And it's got a great wild kind of Sixth Sense style twist in the end that I won't even really talk about or give away. That will make it for the audiences that are in it, not just for the Western and not just to enjoy that kind of world. It's going to have a twist to it for them that's going to make the whole journey so much more valuable, because the uh, the reaction to it has been wild.
okay, whoever cut the trailer for Place of Bones needs a bonus because there's nothing
Yeah,
given away from it. There's nothing. I mean, you see a lot of action, but you don't know what's going to happen in that movie. You don't know. I mean,
no,
and I love that. I mean, it's a smart trailer, and it's suspenseful, and it holds a secret. Everybody these
yeah.
days that throws out a trailer, they tend to show a little bit too much. Um, Another person
Well,
who
the theory in that marketing style is that people don't want to have a mystery. They want to be told everything right up front, and there's a lot of that goes in some of the writing formulas for networks and studios and stuff like that at times as well. So you may wonder in some movies, like, why did they just give away the farm just now? You know, but that's why, because
yeah,
they're worried that people won't watch it if they don't know everything.
I mentioned about the bonus, and she's mentioned that I plan to play on words there about, yeah, that's right. Place of bones bonus. Glad you're here,
Oh,
Jen.
bonus. Uh,
I did. That was not planned. Let me tell you, that was just. But you know what though? I enjoy a good trailer. I do. I mean,
yeah.
and I really enjoyed whoever shot this one or who edited it because, like I said, it gives you just what you need to whet the appetite. And the cast in this movie, Corin, what a delightful cast you got. I mean, not only did you get
Well,
yourself.
that's the other. Yeah, that was the other great thing about this is that Richard Taylor wrote a story that didn't need this huge backdrop of characters and locations and all of this. It was the sparseness, the lack of locations that makes this world so, yeah, dangerous. You know what I mean? It's like, they want to show, oh, it's so dangerous in a Western town when you walk into the saloon. Yeah, but how dangerous is it out in the middle of nowhere? Yeah, it's
Yeah.
far more dangerous.
And you know what? The setting's perfect too. The setting is correct. Jen says hello to you. Says hello, Corin. Glad you're
Hiya.
here, Jen. What I really appreciated the fact too, and I noticed in the synopsis it mentions that Pandora and Hester are 95 miles away from the next town. That is
Exactly.
historically accurate. That's historically accurate.
Yeah.
That happened a lot. I mean,
Yeah.
people don't understand that the land, there's several spots in the United States that it just didn't have anybody. You just had to rely on yourself.
Well, they made deals with those settlers, the folks who went out there. The government made deals with them. They basically just showed them a map of the Western territories, and they showed them a big space they carved out and said, "You can have this if you go out there and build a house on it."
Right.
You know what I mean? And so that's how they started, settling the West, was people just going, oh, it didn't matter that a whole tribe of Indians might live on that land, or might use that fishing hole that's on your property, or might use that river that, it doesn't, that doesn't matter. They're looking at just at a map and just saying that's yours, that's yours, that's yours. It's kind of like what they did with the Middle East after World War One. You know what I
Right.
mean? Sort of just
Yeah.
carve it up and just say, here, France, you can have this. Germany, you get a little bit of that. America, you can have a piece of this. Australia, yeah, we'll work you in later.
What's that saying? To the victors go the spoil.
Exactly.
So besides you, what was it? How did you hear about the project? I mean, was
Yes.
this word of mouth,
It
or
was
was it
fortuitous, my friend. It was
good?
totally fortuitous. I was down in Mississippi, living in Ocean Springs, Mississippi, and I had moved down there. My good friend Jason London, a fellow actor, and another old friend of mine named Artie Glacken from Los Angeles. They had both transplanted down there, and there was a burgeoning film scene happening down there. So I had gone down for a visit, and it made sense for me to move myself down there for a period of time, which worked out great because we ended up shooting a TV pilot that I'm still shopping now, but it's called Blackwater Blues, and we shot that. It's on my YouTube, Corin Nemec TV on YouTube. It's a great 26-minute, pilot presentation for a wonderfully thought out series. Takes place down in the dirty South. I won't go too deeply into it, but and then we did another film called Deadly Justice down there. That was a kind of a lifetime thriller style movie. That the gentleman I spoke of earlier, Billy Miller, he played the corrupt judge in that, which his friends in the legal world down there in Biloxi had a real hoot when they saw him in Orange, when what he does is defend people from going to jail. So, uh, but anyway, so being down there, I ended up getting connected up with a guy named David Lipper, who's a producer and an actor, but mostly a producer now, from Los Angeles, who was very close friends with my manager, a gentleman named Michael Greenwald, and he had a small role in a movie. It was 4 scenes in a movie called Joe Baby with Deacon Lockman, Harvey Keitel, Ron Perlman, a bunch of other big cast. And I had a small role in it, but and there wasn't a whole lot on the page, but I brought this really interesting Southern character to it that made it different than what he was expecting. And when he got the opportunity to make this film, roughly a year later, Place of Bones, when they were getting ready to cast Austin Calhoun, he just thought of me, and he gave me the opportunity to audition for Heather and Audrey, and I was able to win them over with the audition because with Heather Graham and Tom Hopper as the two primary leads, there was a really big chance that that role would have rolled downhill to someone like a Stephen Dorff, who ended up starring in the Western that I wrote, or an Ethan Hawke, or whoever else, that is higher up there in that same echelon of of present day notoriety on larger budgeted projects. So, being a working actor as I am, you know, talent is something that has to have there has to be given an opportunity to truly reveal it. There's a limited amount of opportunity in a lot of the Lifetime movies, or the sci-fi thrillers, or whatever else, whatever other kind of, or even the odd guest spot, or whatnot. There's a limited amount of time, and a limited amount of context in which you have to work with to create a truly dynamic character. And most of the time,
It's gonna be the
there's a
hardest work.
pace.
Is it
Yeah, and
harder?
there's a pacing. Yeah, there's a pacing that isn't allowed. There's a lack of, well, the pacing is an issue because there's in the mainstream world of film and television, there's a formula that you have to go by primarily. you can't really deviate from the formula too much. So a certain kind of event has to happen by page 7. Another thing has to happen by 12. By this page, by all these different things have to unfold. You have to have a strong cold open, meaning the opening of the movie has to say some, some kind of. So
I was gonna say I didn't realize that until we had talked to until I had talked to Adam Marcus, director Adam Marcus, and he walked us through for a horror film back there. He did a horror film, and he said that there had to be like a murder, a killing every 8 minutes. Like I didn't know that. I
right.
just thought it was just I didn't know that you had to like put certain things at certain time frames to hold the audience. I thought it was just
Yeah.
written
So
as a
then
script. That's
yeah. So
really
now you get you find yourself an extremely talented writer, and and you tell that talented writer, okay, yeah, we love your script. Your script was just fantastic. Hold on, I have to let my corgi out back real quick. He's dying
okay.
for a lick. Give me 1 second. Come
No
here real
problem.
quick.
Hey, Theodore. Oh, there, Theodore making an appearance.
Yeah. Here he is. Yes,
Oh,
he's so
yeah.
beautiful.
He's so cute.
He's so beautiful.
He's hamming it up. Now if Calhoun would have had that corgi riding by his side, he probably wouldn't have got his ass shot up. I'm just saying.
Uh, um, that would be great. I wonder if there was a corgi in the Wild West
You know what?
somewhere. That would be awesome.
That's a really good question. That's a really good question. You got to investigate that. It's
Uh,
funny. I'll tell you something I discovered too, and it's really. So I had a friend of mine, and she's going into directing, and she's directing for. She directed a movie for. She directed a movie for Hallmark. She directed her first movie for Hallmark. I could not believe the speed of that production. She was talking about how she was filming in March, filming in March, and giving out an air date in April.
yeah.
I thought it was
Well, yeah,
I thought it was a misprint. I thought she got it wrong. Like that's like a less
yeah,
than you mean May? No, April.
yeah, yeah.
How do
Well,
you go from
and
shooting a
going
film? I've just never heard anything so I never heard anything so crazy. I
well,
mean, I've
going
heard.
back to yeah, go. Sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was saying, yeah, going back to that, so if you find a great script and then it goes through the studio system, and the script is great for a reason, and then suddenly they're like, oh well, the first killing doesn't happen until page 12. So here in this scene, when the family is shopping for flour, we're going to have some guys run in and they're going to gun down the store owner and steal the flour. And they're like, yeah, but that doesn't work because they bake a pie later. Oh, well, don't worry about the pie. We'll figure it out. We're going to have to add that. And then, you know what I mean? So eventually, once it goes through the system, you've lost the original quality of what made it a great story. And what's wonderful about this is that this is Richard Taylor's script. This is his. It wasn't manipulated by the system. It wasn't taken by David Lipper and the other producers, Kip Diddy and the other producers. It wasn't taken by them and restructured, reformatted, rethought. You know what I mean? They
Yeah,
saw the beauty in what it was, and Heather Graham saw an opportunity to play a role that is so right for her to play in this time for her right now in her career, to play this strong of a character, this strong of a woman, this and the lead from beginning, middle, and end all the way through. She's done so many great supporting roles that she's so well known for and so well loved for, but seeing her carry the role all the way through is a real treat. I think that the fans of Heather Graham are going to really enjoy this as
I
well.
was I
And
was so surprised
and
to see
then
her.
the character that Tom Hopper gets to play, I'm sure he always just wanted to do a Western. It's probably on his bucket list. His production company was also part of the producing team as well. So I think that he also saw. I don't know what's going on with my hair right now, but it's driving me crazy. Uh,
You gonna
but
throw
but
on a
he
hat?
Yeah, but
You-
I'm lucky too because see, if Tom Hopper, if he wasn't so busy, he would have played the character of Calhoun. But his filming schedule was so tight with Umbrella Academy and other things going on, he had to take the other character, the other role, which is the third lead basically, and but it's his performance as his character is so wonderful because you get to see that, yeah, this guy's a total badass. He's super dangerous, but he's also really smart and manipulative. And the reason why he's still alive is because he manipulates his men to do the stupid stuff first. You know what I'm saying?
that sounds like somebody we both know, in a more national stage. Interesting. Our friend Jen mentions here, I have a question. Uh, what do you do, and what do you enjoy doing more, Corin? Directing, writing, or acting? And also your hair is cool.
Okay, thanks. I on the it depends. I think acting is one of the it's what I've done the longest, and I'm very comfortable. I'm almost more comfortable when I'm on set than I am anywhere else in normal life, I feel so at home there. It's strange. Um, but I kind of grew up around it because my mom was in the industry. My dad, and she was in the music and theater industry. My dad in the film and TV industry and so I was around the industry as well in different ways my whole life. It's just something, a place that is it's comfortable for me. So I love it very much. I enjoy it very much. The fun part about producing and writing is being able to be a part of the creating of the world before the actors are even there. Where are the locations? What do the locations look like? What kind of world are we creating here? And as a writer, that's the most fun part is that in that in this kind of metaphysical context, you get to play God with the world that you're creating. You get to do anything you want with all of the characters that you're creating. You get to put them through whatever turmoils or whatever wonderful blessings or anything you want. You can put them in any settings. You can do. It's just there's something to it that's kind of magical. And then when you see it come to life on the screen, as the writer seeing that, wow, look at now it's in a three-dimensional world. I mean, all these characters have now come to life, and there it is. Everybody can see it, and that's a magical experience too. So the directing side of it I haven't gotten to do as much of because um uh, whether wisely or not, I haven't wanted to wear too many hats when I'm working on a production. So I haven't really wanted to act and direct at the same time. For me, it's discombobulating in a way where I want to be relaxed and focused on my performance. And then I don't want to have to lean on my cinematographer and first AD all the time to do all of the work that I should be doing
That's
as the
correct.
director if I'm starring in it also. So I haven't taken the reins as a director on a number of occasions when I could have because I was also starring in the film that I was working on, and maybe it's a challenge I could rise to. It's just not one that I've wanted to. If I'm going to direct, I'd rather write and direct and not be in it at all.
I want to go back to Heather for a little bit because you were so right. She's a very interesting actress. I feel. I mean, when I saw that she was doing this movie, I was really surprised. I'm just like, this is badass. This is because people see Heather Graham, they see her as well, at least up till this year. They always see her doing comedies or romantic movies. That sort of thing. Like more family oriented fare. More of course when she was younger she did Boogie Nights. But
Yeah.
this year she seems to have taken her career and gone to a different direction. She did Suitable Flesh, was it, uh, Come back. Okay. She did Suitable Flesh, which was her. I think that was like her first true horror film that she did. Well, I mean, like a lead role in that, and here she's doing a western, and people are going like, well, what's she doing that for? And to me, it's like, why not? I mean, why the
Well,
hell not?
they'll understand when they see it, when they see the the quality of the writing and the character that she's created for this role, which most people are used to seeing Heather very loose, very very loose, and this character is not that way at all. This woman is
No,
very tight. She's extremely tightly wound.
very. It's
There
so
is no
noticeable.
humor. Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, she finds comedic moments as this character being this character because you're like, wow, that character is so fucking serious. It's comical at times. In a couple of moments where it's right. It's not funny, haha funny. It's like, wow, I know this. I've met this person before. I know
right.
this kind of person. I know this personality.
Now,
Humor type thing.
had you met Heather at all, or had you worked with her at all in your career? Did you know some of the same people? I mean, how did they find you to do this? Did they ask for you specifically, or was this a
Well, no,
script they
like I
got
said,
sent to you?
yeah, I told you that story because I'd worked with David Lipper on that other
Oh,
film,
okay,
and he
good.
was producing this one, and he gave me the opportunity to audition for Heather and Audrey, and
Right,
so I was
that's the part.
able to
That's the
score
part I was
that.
trying to talk to
Yes,
you about. So she was
yes,
there.
I was.
What was it like to audition? What's it like to audition in
It
front
was
of
a
a
Zoom. It was a Zoom call. I had to audition on Zoom. I'm in Florida there, and I don't even. I think Heather may have been like in Aspen or something like that at the time. And then Audrey was in Toronto, or so we were all on there, and I and gave me the opportunity to talk about my ideas for the character with them, the script, and then to actually read some scenes, take some direction from Audrey, read them again, and with David Lipper's support, I have to credit him with this 100% because he was the one who went to Audrey and went to Heather, who were both very concerned about who was going to play this role. Went to them and said, "Listen, you got to trust me on this one. It's not going to be the name that you two are thinking I'm going to bring to you, but it's Corin Nemec." They're like, huh, what? It's just, it was out of left field. And it's finally because he knows me as an actor from back when from having done I Know My First Name is Steven, from doing My Son Johnny, from being nominated for awards, because he was a young actor as well at the same time period I was doing it in the 90s and whatnot. And he saw a lot of the other more dramatic pieces that I did where I was allowed to uh to
Right.
take on good roles and be able to show people what I can do. It's like when people, even though it wasn't a huge budget film, my portrayal of Richard Speck or Ted Bundy, those were, as an actor, even though it was disgusting to play those guys, as an actor, it was a rare opportunity for me to get to challenge myself and create a dynamic character that people believe is the person they're watching, not thinking, oh, this is Robert De Niro playing Ted Bundy. You know what I mean? Because he didn't change characters; he's still Robert De Niro.
Right. I think you're right. I mean, plus genre films such as westerns, they're done so there's so few of them done. There's so few of them done, and it's just, and you have to go out there and you have to get the setting just right. You have to, it's important. Helps to keep the genre alive. If there's a lot of cheesy ass cowboy movies coming out, people, they're not going to be interested in it. They're not going to be interested in either in watching it or investing in it. So I think it was
Yeah.
important. But to me, it was like, you like you mentioned that Heather was a producer, and I guess you've done this as yourself as a producer. But to me, it's like,
Yeah, I don't know if
where's
Tom Hopper is a producer on it. I don't know if Heather is. Tom Hopper is one
okay.
of the executive producers on it.
Okay. So you got to talk to Heather and you got the role, and then Uh, you keep mentioning that you were in Mississippi. When did you shoot the film?
Oh gosh, if my wife was in here, I could tell you. It was well, it was definitely during December and January from the crossover of 2022 to 2023. So we shot in December and then into January, taking a Christmas break.
Yeah, people. That's not surprising. I mean, it takes. I was telling you earlier, though. I mean, that sounds absolutely right. That's like, and then my friend who shot her movie and not only shot the movie but aired it the next month. I never seen anything so crazier than that. Since doing this job, I've never seen that before. I've heard of people shooting on 5 days or 6 days, but then they go to post production and it's there for 6 months or a year or whatnot, but not to bring it
Yeah,
to the audience in a month. So,
yeah.
how long how many days did you shoot for Place of Bones?
I think the total day count on this was somewhere around, might have been 20, somewhere around 20, give or take.
Okay, okay, okay.
Yeah, maybe 20, maybe a little bit more. I mean, what was wonderful is that, so we shot 2 weeks of December and then 2 weeks of January, and 5 day shooting weeks. And that allowed us, because we were isolated on that. We didn't have a lot of company moves. That's what else, what really can hurt a production too, is how many locations do you have? How many different scenes do you have, and how many different locations with how many different characters? You
Well,
know,
did you
this
just
was
have
boiled down.
two locations, right? The cabin itself and outside the cabin.
Essentially, yes. I mean, the locate there's several campsites, and then there's one bank robber campsite, a second bank robber campsite, and then there's the compound where the main story takes place.
Uh,
So
uh,
three primary locations, and then the areas in between. Those are obviously locations that along the trail, and all those things.
you mentioned earlier about like this movie has a twist at the end of it. And I was talking to you earlier about the I got the same vibe. I got the same vibe that it looks like a straightforward, western in the trailer, but without showing your hand, you do sense that there's something a little bit more to it. It's not just your average, cowboys around the cabin, it's not that same thing. It's not Heaven's Gate, It's something a little bit deeper, a little bit more primal in the feeling of this movie. Sort of like a
Yes.
little bit, like Bone Tomahawk. This
Yes.
a little dark, I'm all there for it. That's been
Good.
one
Good.
that was a really cool movie too. Now,
I loved it
the
too.
other thing I was going to ask you is, since this is your first western, but what are some of your what were some of your favorite westerns growing up, or even now?
Oh, I mean, my pretty much my all-time. Obviously, I loved the spaghetti westerns, the classics from, Fistful of Dollars, Fistful of Dynamite, and Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and and then there was a number of other ones that were done with other actors that were pretty rad too. I can't remember all the names of them. I was into them for a while, but my all-time favorite western is The Long Riders. By far, that's with the Quaids, the Carradines, and the Quiches. All of those brothers playing the real characters of the James gang, and the younger brothers, which I forget the other one. But anyway, that The Long Riders is by far one of my most favorite westerns ever. I think it transports you to that time period better than almost any other western that's ever been done. Especially the interior saloon scenes and town scenes, and how the costuming, the makeup in it, it's just the background actors that they got. That's a major thing too. Yeah, what does the world look like? Everybody you're casting for that saloon, if they don't have any dialogue, it doesn't matter. How do they fit in?
Right.
Do they look like they would be in this saloon at this time period in this particular place or not? And if they don't, how do we make them look like it?
Because I think
But
there's I think a lot of directors or producers would be tempted to, cast all good-looking people, but the West wasn't always like
well, that
that.
happens all the time. That
You
happens all
know,
the time.
you know,
I
you
mean,
want
look
to
at
put
me and Heather Graham, right? Look at me and Heather Graham and Tom
oh
Hopper,
my
three
gosh, yeah,
gorgeous folks, just beautiful.
yeah, you guys are definitely dashing together. That's for sure. Um, Besides
Uh,
Tom Hopper, and besides Tom Hopper in the cast, you also have speaking of a cowboy, you also have Cowboy Cerrone in the picture as well.
Yeah, Cowboy Cerrone,
Yeah,
Gatling Griffin, Zachary Keller, and then even Ray Abruzzo, who normally plays mobsters. He's very well known in The Sopranos and a bunch of other movies. He normally plays the mobsters, and he plays this wonderful character of a pimp, an old Wild West pimp, and he's just fantastic in it. I mean, I wished his character was in it more, to be honest. All of the actors did a really, really great job. But Cowboy Cerrone, he didn't even have to act. He just had to just be. You know what I mean? He just had to sit there and be because he's a very nice guy. He's very personable. He's very approachable. He's kind and all of that. But he looks just so rough around the edges. He's not the first guy in a bar you'd go up to and ask for a light, you know?
right, right. Let's see. I'm gonna go to the chat real quick. It says here. Let's see. Let's see. Steve mentioned his favorite. He says it's the good, bad, and the ugly. And Jen has mentioned, has anybody seen the Hatfield and the McCoys? I actually have that.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Yes.
I have that with Kevin Costner and Bill Paxton.
Yeah.
I do have that. I
Yeah.
haven't watched it yet. Says Steve mentions this has been an interesting view from inside of filmmaking. Great interview. Thank you so much. And you guys are free to ask questions of Corin. Any questions you have. I wanted to touch something on you that we because I was listening to our first chat and I was fascinated by this because you and I were talking and because this it has changed since we last talked. We were talking about some of the folks you knew when you were coming up in the business, and I had mentioned Corey Feldman, and you didn't hang with him at all, and then someone mentioned or Edward Furlong, and you had done a show with Edward. Um, I
I
don't.
don't remember working with Edward Furlong. I may have done something with him. I mean, like, I mean, I knew Stephen Dorff when we were in high school because we were in the same acting class and stuff, and we hung out quite a bit. Brian Green, we hung out quite a bit during back then. Ernie Reyes Jr. was one of my best friends. Still very close. Great guy.
How's he
Um,
doing?
Balthazar, he's doing wonderful. Balthazar Getty and David Arquette were two of my closest friends growing up as well, in terms of people in the industry. And then a lot of the other ones ended up in the music business. Justin Warfield from She Wants Revenge was one of my best friends, and Kevin Hicks from the band Gumbo is one of my best friends, and Mickey Avalon. Yeshi Pearl is his real name, but he's a kind of one of these alternative rappers, and Seth Binzer, rest in peace, who was the
Um,
lead singer of Crazy Town. I grew up with him as well.
did you really?
Um, I grew up with a lot of these characters. We were all into the graffiti art and hip hop scene back in the 80s. That's where
You
how
still do
all of
that
us
too.
knew each other.
You still go out and paint.
I do not as much as I have in the past. I've kind of had to refocus some energy into some other areas. It's not as accessible for me here either. I had in back in at my place in Texas, I had some graffiti walls built. I built my own graffiti walls in my backyard, so I had my own graffiti yard. I could go out there and paint anytime I wanted. It was awesome. And I also knew a bunch of abandoned places out where where I had a place out, and it used to be a lot. It used to be very rural there. Now it's not, but there was old abandoned horse farms and some old abandoned cattle farm places, and some there was a lot of like weird stuff out, and it was all overgrown. I could go out there and paint all the time. I paint these old farms and stuff. It was a lot of fun. Uh, but I've really just had to refocus and get a little bit more, aligned with what's happening and with film and what's happening with the
James,
future and TV series work.
I think the last time you and I talked, if I'm not mistaken, I have to go back and double check. It might have been during the strike.
Yes, it might have been. It might have been. Yes.
So what's it been like for you? What's it been? I mean, Courtney, I mean, from what I've seen, it seems like you're very busy, which is a pretty,
What?
that's, you seem like you got a lot of projects coming on, which is really quite different from what I'm seeing from a lot of people. A lot of people don't seem to be nearly as busy as you are. I think that's a credit to your talent. That's for sure. What I
Well, thank
really,
you.
I'll say this again. I told you this the first time you and I talked. The one thing that really strikes me about your acting is you give it a y'all in everything that you do. And
Oh, thank you.
another actor that does that as well, and I have nothing but respect for now is Eric Roberts. Eric Roberts can get the shittiest script, and because he'll accept
Yeah,
anything. He'll
yeah,
get
yeah,
the but you watch him, and it could be the most dumbest piece of like how did he get involved in this? But then he comes up there, and there's this part, and then all of a sudden you're sitting there going like, man, I hope the Oscars are paying attention to this because he gives that much energy to it. And I feel like with your acting, it's the same thing. I mean, when you're on
thanks,
a
man.
project, when you're working, you can definitely tell you
Yeah,
give it your all. There's no phoning it in with you. And I
yeah,
think
thanks.
I think I think it's noticed, right? I mean, here you go, Tom Hopper or your the other gentleman you mentioned. He says, I think I got there's a part for you. I got a part for you. I mean, I think it's a testament to your skill set that you are working a lot more than a lot of people who aren't.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate that. I gotta let my dog in now. He's losing his mind. And then I'd love to jump into those 8 questions. There you go, sir. Welcome back.
Uh,
There we go.
Now, does Theodore know any tricks? Does
What was
does,
that?
The- does Theodore know any tricks? Did you teach? Have you taught him any tricks?
I mean, he can sit and he can lay down. That's
I mean,
about it.
he's got you. He's
I
got
think.
you trained opening the door and shutting the door. So I'm just wondering.
Well, yeah, that's his best trick is getting me and my wife and stepson to do whatever it is he wants us to do.
Yeah, I'm laughing at that, but I'm in the same boat. I mean, Paladin starts talking. I like, well, uh-oh, what's going on? What do you need? What do you need? Right? That's
Yes, exactly.
okay. With some of we got some questions. Um, oh, okay. I'm gonna ask that, Jen. But okay. Jen asked the question earlier. It made me laugh, but I'll give it to you anyway. Oh, okay. This is not from me. Okay. Who would win in a WWE match between Rotten Tail and the Velocipaster? I don't know if you've
Oh, a
seen
velociraptor?
the
A
Velocipaster.
velociraptor?
No, it's
What?
called the Velocipaster. It's a guy. It's a priest that could turn into a dinosaur.
Oh, oh, oh. Well, no, I mean, of course, Rottentail is going to be able to win that because he'll just kill him when he's not turned into the dinosaur yet.
There. Oh my gosh. Okay, you know what? Let's talk about some of the good stuff that you've seen. What has impressed you, Corin, as an actor and a producer and a writer, what's some, what were some of your favorite films that you've seen this year that you've watched and sit there and been blown away by some different performances? Because I know peers watch other peers at work. I just know that happens. People say, "Oh, I don't really watch what they're doing." You and I both know that isn't necessarily true. But who's really impressed you so far this year, besides yourself and Heather and Tom and Cowboy?
Man,
Who-
yeah, I don't know. I probably don't watch as much movies as people would yeah, might think. I don't really kind of study. I mean, like eh, more recently, I mean, I was just rewatching the Norseman, which is that comedy about Vikings. To me, that's hilarious. I watch that all the time. But so I'm terrible. I'm terrible in that respect. I wouldn't be able to give you any breakdown on the latest and greatest.
Oh, really? Okay. Uh,
No.
okay. Well, okay. I'll ask another real basic one. What was it like to work? What was it like to work with Heather? Was Heather and Cowboy, and I mean, what are their process like in comparison to your own, and how did you make it work together? I mean, were they all so
Well,
different?
well, yes and no. I think that Heather is very professional. Her level of professionalism, and now it could also be that we weren't doing a comedy, so and it was that she had a lot of dialogue heavy character development to do in the film. So I don't know if the quietness and the keeping to oneself kind of thing was relative to the character, or how professional she is at work. Because see, I'm somewhat the same way. I'm from that school of acting where it's not a social experiment, it's a job. Socializing is for the rap party, not for everything going on set. You got to stay focused, you got to stay in the game, you got to keep your eye on the ball. And within the context of that, there's a lot of fun and enjoyment to be had, and there's plenty of laughs to be had, but it's got to be something that's so organic and natural to the comfortableness of the working environment. Not that somebody's trying to take the working environment and turn it into their stand-up show routine, for their ego when everybody else is trying to work. You know what I mean? So there's a
I'm
fine
sure that that
line.
is,
Yeah, there's a
I'm
fine
sure.
line in behavior on set, on in etiquette, and I think that most actors that I've ever worked with are all super pro, and she's on top of the list for sure.
Yeah, she just seems to be that way. You're right. I mean, she does come across a lot of her characters come across as really light and fluffy characters, really bubbly and whatnot. But you always got that sense, especially with the choices that she's made last year or so, a couple of years, where she's all of a sudden she's just gone from all of a sudden she went from a leading lady to suddenly she
Yeah,
just turned over and started doing some horror films. And I'm like, I think people are just astounded by that. They're like, wow, I just didn't see Heather, especially Suitable Flesh. I just didn't
yeah,
see Heather Graham playing a role like that. And
right.
I think it's super refreshing. Now, you worked with
Yeah,
some young talent on this film too. You worked with Brielle Rolabard, who played Hester. Um, what was
yeah,
she like?
she's fantastic. Very enthusiastic. I think that she understood what an incredible opportunity this role was for her as an actress. I think that she took we did some rehearsals and read throughs and stuff before we went into production, and she was taking this opportunity very seriously. She showcases her talent really, really well in this. Her character has a wonderful arc. Um, in fact, her character may have the biggest arc of all the characters, to be honest, now that I think about it. But she's great, man. She's really great. Um, I hate to start leading us towards a closure on this, but I got to get
No,
some stuff done here before it
no,
gets
no
too late
problem.
because we're heading out early in the morning.
Not a problem. Not a problem. Thank you. No, it's fine. I want to thank you for coming out and hanging out with us again, Corin. It's always a pleasure. It's a real honor to have you on
I
the
love it,
show.
dude.
And I'm super excited for a Place of Bones. I think it's going to be come out
Thank you, man. Thank you so
yeah,
much.
I do notice that you mentioned you got somebody a screener, and we have to talk about that because I didn't get a screener, and
Well, no, no, no. I didn't get.
I know, I
I
know.
took it to him. I
Oh my God. Will this get a
I
physical?
went there physically. It was like a box of gold. You know what I mean? Like I can show this to you, but I can't leave it with you.
Right, and you can't tell anybody what you see, or I have to come and get you. Um,
That's exactly right.
will this be released on physical media after its theatrical run? Will this on streaming run? Will it get a
It's well,
theatrical?
it's coming out. From my understanding, it's releasing both theatrically and digitally, almost simultaneously. So it should be available the 23rd or 24th
Yeah,
to rent or purchase.
right.
Uh, and then at some point down the road, it will obviously make its way across all of the various platforms that want to get their hands on it because this is going to play well for a long time to come.
I think so too. What westerns are an amazing genre. All right, my friend, I'm gonna go ahead and let you
Love
go.
you, buddy.
Yeah, love you too, man. I'm glad you're here. We'll talk again soon.
You betcha, man. And I'll wear
All right.
another nice shirt for you.
Oh, thank you so much. And the hair, don't forget the hair. Stay
I'll
safe,
probably wear a
man.
hat next time so I don't run into that catastrophe.
Give Theodore a pat on the head for us, and we'll talk to you soon.
You bet, brother.
All
Cheers,
right.
man. Bye, everybody.
Corin Nemec, everybody. Thank you guys all for coming out and hanging out with us. Yeah, this was a lot of fun. Cannot wait for Place of Bones to get here. Like I said, I love westerns, and we're gonna be back here next Friday. We're gonna be back here next Friday night. We'll be talking with Alexander Nevsky, Joe Cornett, and Tatiana Neva. They're gonna be here next Friday, 8 o'clock, and we're gonna talk about yet another western film called Taken from Rio Bravo. It's a sequel to a film that we talked about before, Gunfighter at Rio Bravo. This is the sequel. This is and there will be a third one. I'm hearing. I'm hearing rumblings that there will be a third one. Cannot make me more happy. Western films, I love them, and I'm glad to see that there's some other people out there that still believe in the genre and are still interested in making stories about our country's origin without spending $200 million on it like Kevin Costner did for a Horizon. Uh, yeah, thank you guys so much. Yeah, no problem, Jen. If you get a chance, Jen, I put up another Dark Castle entertainment review. I reviewed Gothica, so it's on my channel. Thank you so much, Steve. I appreciate it. I know you'll mention the show on Monday, and I want to say even before that, I want to say thank you for all your support. I really do appreciate it. And Yeah, it's gonna be fun. Real quick before I let you guys all go, I'll let you know what's going on next week. On the 20th, we have next Tuesday, we have Eileen Huntington will be here with us on the 20th. Marshall's gonna be here with us on next Wednesday, Steve. Marshall Schartzer will be here with us. Mellow Nomadic Adventures will be with us next Wednesday, 8 o'clock. And poet Stasha Strange will be with us on the 22nd Thursday. And we already had one poet last month, and Katie Thrun, and now we're going to have Stasha Strange come in and share her poetry with us. All right, that's it for me. Thank you so much. Yes, I'm trying. I'm trying. I would love to talk to somebody from Dark Castle. I definitely would. That's it for us. Thank you so much for your support. I wouldn't be here without it. And we'll see you tomorrow at 3 p.m. For Chris Horner. Thanks so much. Peace.